Well, Russian authorities say they are analysing 10 bodies and a black box recorder recovered from a crashed plane on which Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin was listed as a passenger. Prigozhin's possible death has raised questions about the fate of his army of mercenaries. Now, Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko says the soldiers can remain in his country. Lukashenko claimed there were up to 10,000 Wagner troops in Belarus. They fled there after being offered exile in the wake of Prigozhin's failed mutiny against Russia's military chiefs. Lukashenko said he convinced Prigozhin to stand down, but was not responsible for his safety. Meanwhile, Lithuania's defense minister says they have observed signs of Wagner troops leaving Belarus for Russia. Well, for more on this, we're joined by security analyst Mike Martin from King's College London. Mike, great to see you again. So, after the presumed death of Yevgeny Prigozhin, the future of his Wagner Group is fairly uncertain. So what happens to the Wagner mercenaries in Belarus now? Because Lukashenko said that they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's the key question, and really it's a question of charismatic leadership. Prigozhin was an incredibly charismatic man who inspired his men to do great things, as they see it, on the battlefield in Ukraine. And now that he's gone, and don't forget, the Wagner Group is many different organisations. There's a security bit, there's a bot farm, there's various other activities, in Africa. And whether that will all be able to stay together or whether it will break up is a real question. And as to those guys in Belarus, a lot of the security arm are being offered contracts in the Russian military, but not all of them are taking them up. Their conditions were better in Wagner. They had better leadership, as we've discussed. And so it is a real open question as to what now happens to Wagner.
Now, the Lithuanian defence chief said that a new Prigozhin will rise. Do we have any indication that someone else within the Wagner will actually succeed him?
I'm not so sure about that. And the reason I'm not so sure about it is because the way that Putin likes to run things in Russia. So you've got to think of Russia a bit like a medieval court. And Putin likes people to be powerful, but not too powerful so that they can challenge him. So it's better that he has lots of people as acolytes rather than all of the power being centralised. And that was, of course, the problem with Prigozhin. He became too powerful, launched a coup, and then was on the hit list. I think if Putin has his way, what he would like is Wagner to be broken up, some bits to go to the military, perhaps the African operations to come under someone else. And so he has several different people, several different power centres that he has to deal with. I see no evidence that there is someone waiting in the wings to take over the whole outfit.
Mike, let's talk about the military strategy of Eastern European countries now, particularly Poland and the Baltics. Now, they've been very concerned by the presence of Wagner mercenaries in Belarus. So how have they been dealing with that, what they see as a threat?
Well, there's basically, let's use Poland as an example. It's the biggest military power in Eastern Europe. They've basically got a three-point strategy. So point one is stay close to NATO, because ultimately those countries are within NATO. They're covered by the Article 5 security guarantee. Point two is give lots of weapons to Ukraine. And so, in the case of Poland, they've given billions of dollars worth of equipment. They were among the first nations to give tanks, fighter jets. They've been leading on many of the weapon systems that's gone to Ukraine. And the third one, and we've seen this recently in the Polish Independence Day parade, is make sure that everyone knows that you have a strong military. So that's big military parades, military exercises, working with NATO partners in a very visible way. And with that three-point strategy, countries like Poland, Lithuania are just sending the signal that you really don't want to mess with us.
Now, you touched on it just a little earlier. Let's talk about Africa. What is the future for Wagner and Russia, we'll say, in Africa now?
Well, and it was mentioned in your headline, wasn't it, that really France, which was the colonial power in West Africa and had a lot of contacts with countries like Mali and Niger and Burkina Faso, really has exited the stage. And that vacuum was filled by Wagner. And there were a number of coups. Niger is the third coup that's happened in that part of the world recently, the fourth, I guess, if you include Sudan, in which Wagner has had a role. And it really isn't clear what's going to happen going forward, because those Wagner troops were acting really as a Praetorian guard for the new leaders of those countries. So they come to power, and then basically Wagner promised to protect them against outside problems, and in return they get mining interests. So that's quite lucrative, but also there's a lot of power held there. And so if Wagner's not able to consolidate, or Russia, as you say, is not able to consolidate those holdings, the question is whether they will splinter again and will end up with another power vacuum in a very, very important part of the world.
Thanks, Mike. Mike Martin from King's College in London.
Thank you.